All right, guys. Rick from RW Outdoors here again, making another little video today. This is going to be the start of one or two videos I'm going to make about a new project that we've got going on here. Before we get started, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, like, hit the bell, all that stuff. If you're finding this on Facebook, please follow us on RW Outdoors and Instagram at RW Outdoors. We got a lot of cool things coming down the line. Getting ready for hunting season this year. We got turkeys coming up in a month, and I've got some fun things that we're going to do with that. So, yeah, follow us along. Today, we are going to talk about this guy. And this guy is a Winchester 1894 model, Winchester 94 30-30 lever action rifle that I was fortunate enough to be gifted by a good friend of mine, Mark Richards. He kind of knew I wanted a lever gun to play with and do a little project on, and he happened to have this one, and he's letting me have it. So that's pretty cool. So what are we going to do with this? Well, about a month ago, I got to looking around on Facebook or social media like you do, and I came across these tactical conversions for lever action rifles. And man, I tell you, I really liked them. They're really cool looking, and they're lightweight. And it's going to get even lighter. And I've been looking for a different gun to carry with me when I'm deer hunting with a climber that isn't as heavy and bulky as the rifle, my 650 Creedmoor Savage Magpul edition that I've been using. It's big, heavy gun. And I kind of just wanted something smaller and lighter that I could take with me up in a tree stand when I'm climbing. Well, this guy right here in the 30-30 will do the trick. So, I got a hold of this here in Florida. We're hunting in the woods. We're not shooting more than 200 yards at a deer. So, having distance or range capabilities of 500-600 yards isn't needed. And like everything I do in life, I like to modify things. I like to take old things and make them cool. So that's what we're going to do with this. We're going to take this older, from the serial numbers. This one was probably made early 70s. We're going to take this older Winchester rifle and make something really cool out of it. Today, I'm just going to kind of get it tore down and get it cleaned up. It's got a little bit of surface rust on it. I'm going to go ahead and get the stock and the handguard and the scope and everything off of this, get it stripped down a little bit and get it cleaned up, get the rust off of it. And then all of our new parts get here tomorrow, so I can make another video tomorrow putting it back together, and we'll see what we get when we're done. I think it's going to be really, really cool. So anyways, we'll get started. The first thing I got to do is take this Hollow Sun red dot off of it, which is a pretty cool little unit. One of the things that's unique about these Winchester lever actions is they eject the round out of the top of the gun. So you do have to be pretty careful with scope mounting on these things. Otherwise, the scope will get in the way of the round ejecting. So that'll present a challenge that I'll tackle once I get all my parts installed. Of course, this comes off easy enough, and it has these Picatinny adapters on it right here for this current scope, which I will remove because I'm not sure that I'm going to use them. But we'll keep them just in case. It's just two screws on the top of each one of these adapters here. And as you can see, these are just a little Picatinny adapter so that you can mount a scope. And it does spread across the action here where it's opened up for the bolt and for the cartridge to eject. But I'm not going to run that red dot on it, so I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to attach a scope just yet. But rest assured, I'll figure it out once I get it done. Get everything else done, get it all cleaned up, and get the new furniture and everything on it. 30-30 round is an old school deer hunting round. It's an old school hunting round. It's been around forever. Again, it's not something I would take if I was shooting a deer at 600 yards, but I hunt in Florida, so we're not shooting deer at 600 yards. And, it's typically a good round within 0 to 200 yards, and that's exactly what we're going to do. The first step we got to do is we got to take these lock rings off here. These rings hold the handguard and your tube here that has the spring where your bullets go. It's like the chamber for where all your rounds go. I don't know the exact term for it, but we can do this. We can take this screw right here out, These are little tiny screws, and when I take things apart, I like to keep, and then as you can see, this just slides off. I like to keep screws with the piece of equipment they're going to go with, so that I don't mix them up later going back together. We'll take the same thing off the front here, this ring here. We'll take this screw out. And then, that's the second of those lock ring screws. Then we can take the screw out right here underneath that holds on the cap, that holds the spring in for where your rounds go into your tube here. Again, I'm not the guy with all the technical knowledge of what this tube is called. This is the tube the bullets go in. And there's a spring in here. So when you take this screw out, you need to pay attention that you don't, this thing doesn't go flying. So pull this screw. I need a smaller screwdriver. Let's try this one. There we go. Some of these screws are been in here, 40 years. They don't want to come out. This one is one of them. Of course, it's the one that's upside down on the gun, so it's hard to get to. But here we go. It's coming out. It and all the Loctite with it. All right, so that screws out. And then this here comes off. This is the plug. And then here's our spring. So with this removed, and then we can slide the tube here out. This is where your rounds go. And then you can take these little guys here, flip them up, and slide them right over your front sight here. Now that that's all done, this handguard should come right off like that. And now, so we have, we have the barrel left and the receiver assembly and your lever and everything. We're going to take the buttstock off. Now the buttstock just has one screw right here that holds it on. So we pull this one screw out. And you'll see that this will just slide apart. So we take that screw out, and this buttstock slides right off like that. And this is actually some really nice furniture, so I'm going to try to find somebody that has one of these Winchesters 94s that needs new furniture and see if I can give them this furniture that I won't need anymore, and they can restore their gun. That's kind of like how I like to do things around here at RW Outdoors. This gun was given to me, so I'm going to try to pass this on to somebody who needs it and do a little goodwill, so to speak. So we'll put that up there. So now what we have left basically is the gun, right? We have the barrel, receiver assembly, lever, trigger, and then we have the tube here where your bullets go. I want to give this all a good cleaning, and the way I like to do this is by using some steel wool and some oil. Now, you have to be careful with steel wool. So you've heard that, whether you're new to guns or what, but you've heard of bluing. Bluing is this black oxidized layer that's on all these parts. And that's actually a form of rust. So you don't want to use anything that's designed to remove rust, and you don't want to use anything super coarse, because not only will you take off the rust you want to remove, the little surface rust that I can see here, but you'll remove the bluing and you'll damage the finish of the gun. We don't want to do that. The way you can avoid doing that is by using steel wool of the finest quality, the double or triple zeros fine steel wool. And this stuff is like super soft. I just like to use this steel wool with some motor oil and just clean everything real good. And then I have, some lint-free rags that, we're a race car shop here, so I've always got this stuff. I went out in the shop, tried to find some an open can of oil that I could scavenge to use because I want to open a new can. And we only had the expensive stuff already open, so this gun's getting some Motul today. This is expensive race oil. But you really can't use too much of this, and you just put the oil on your steel wool here and clean your parts. And it'll come out to a nice, you'll get rid of the rust, you'll get a nice shiny finish on it, and it'll get a nice little coat of oil to protect it as well from rusting again in the future. This is actually really good oil, and it smells good, which is kind of cool. Anybody who's ever used Motul oil, this 300V, knows it smells good. And, again, just got the oil and just lightly, you don't got to press hard. This steel wool is going to take the rust off with the oil. And, don't do that. Just lightly go over these parts. Again, you don't want to press hard. You don't want to remove the blued finish, which, like I said, is a form of rust, technically. You just want to knock all that rust off, give it a nice coated finish. And when it's done, it won't rust again, and she'll look good. And if you keep up on these processes, it'll never rust. Obviously, I was just given this gun, so I've never had it. It wasn't mine before to take care of. If you do have a little tougher spots, that's okay. Just give it a little rub with this triple or quadruple zero steel wool. You're not going to scratch that coating. That's what's nice about it. It's just going to take the surface rust off. So I've got it nice and clean now. Take one of these lint-free rags, give it a good wipe down to get the excess oil and stuff off of it. And voila, no rust. Nice and shiny and looks good. So now we'll just kind of repeat that process on the rest of the gun and get her all cleaned up. Ooh, that's a lot of oil. But like I said, you really can't have too much. The oil is just there to help clean and lubricate so that you don't scratch things up when you're doing this. Because the last thing you want to do is, mar up the surface of your nice, pretty classic antique gun here. It's kind of crazy. The Winchester 94s there's a break in how they were made. I think it's in 1964. Up to 1964, they were all handmade. And I guess in 1964, Winchester went to more of an automated production, and a few little details on these guns changed. So the true collectors look for the pre-64 models of these rifles. But, 1964, let's be real, is what? Over 50 years ago or now. So 50, 60 years ago, this gun being built in the late 70s is still this is a very old gun. While it might not be the most sought after of the collectible of the Winchester lever actions, it's still an old gun, and these are still some things that we should preserve and keep and have around and not let just rust away into obscurity because it wasn't made before 1964. These are still very cool weapons. They work well, and they're part of our history. I'm not a huge history buff, but when I can save things where I can and when I can save things that I can save, I do appreciate kind of keeping track of our history a little bit. Yeah, see, that's much better. This barrel had a little bit of surface rust on it. You can see it coming off in the rag, this orange, on the rag here. And just rubbing it down with this 4/0 steel wool with a little motor oils, clearing that right up and making it look nice and shiny again, which is exactly what we want. I'll go ahead and clean up this receiver a little bit. There's a little bit of rust on it here, but not really that much. Again, oil is kind of your gun's friend. You're not really going to hurt a gun with oil. So oil her up. Use some lube. We all like a little lube, right? Get both sides of this thing nice and shiny. Get the top part here. There was a little surface rust on the top. I've already gone through and cleaned the barrel or inside the barrel and the action and everything and oiled her up on the inside as far as the functionality of the gun, but I hadn't done anything with kind of restoring the outside. This is certainly making an oily mess. My hands are a mess. You know, there's oil all over this steel wool. There's oil all over the gun. Just be prepared for that. You're not gonna fight it. It's motor oil. There's no reason to wear gloves. Just get in there, clean it up, and make it look good again. One of the things that I've been debating about this gun is I'm a little conflicted by this gold trigger. When you see what we're doing with this rifle on my next video, which when my parts get here tomorrow, I'll put it together. The gold trigger isn't really going to fit with the theme, but it's also kind of unique. Not a lot of these guns came with the gold trigger, so I think it's kind of cool in that aspect, and I might leave it alone. We'll see. I guess we'll see once it's finished what I really think of it. I don't really like gold in anything. Like, I don't like gold jewelry. I don't like gold stuff on my cars. I'm just not a gold guy, but we'll see once we get it put back together tomorrow what I decide to do. All right. There we go. She looks much better. All right, nice and shiny, nice and cleaned up, no surface rust. She's ready to go back together.